Love X Revenge. The helicopter hovered like a dark insect against the bruised evening sky, its blades slicing the air with a roar that drowned out every scream. Below it stretched miles of forest and rock, an unforgiving wilderness where mistakes didn't get second chances. Inside the cabin, fear had a name. Her name was Lena. She had never imagined her life would narrow down to this moment. Hands bound, heart pounding, the cold metal floor biting into her knees as laughter filled the helicopter. The men around her were not strangers anymore. They were bullies with money, power, and boredom so deep it had turned cruel. What began as a reckless joyride had twisted into something darker when Lena tried to record their illegal hunt in the protected reserve. She thought the truth would protect her. Instead, it marked her. Relax, one of them sneered, pushing her closer to the open door. Wind tore at her hair, stole her breath. You'll be famous. Rangers will talk about you for years. They laughed again, loud and careless, the kind of laughter that comes from believing consequences are for other people. Lena screamed, not for mercy, but in rage. She refused to beg. She refused to give them that satisfaction. Then the world vanished beneath her feet. For a fraction of a second, there was silence, pure, terrifying silence, before gravity claimed her. The helicopter shrank above as she fell through open air, the forest rushing up like a dark ocean. Pain exploded through her body as she struck a steep slope, rolling, bouncing, branches tearing at her skin. She didn't know how long it lasted. Seconds felt like lifetimes. When everything finally stopped, Lena lay broken among rocks and pine needles. Her body screamed in agony. One leg was twisted unnaturally, her ribs burned with every breath, and warm blood trickled down her temple. The sky above blurred in and out of focus. She thought of her mother. She thought of unfinished dreams. She thought this was how it ended. But the forest had been watching. Miles away, in a small ranger outpost hidden among the trees, alarms began to flash. An unauthorized helicopter had crossed into restricted airspace, its transponder deliberately disabled. Ranger Captain Ethan Cole stared at the screen, jaw tightening. This wasn't the first time rich thrill-seekers thought protected land was their playground, but something about this felt wrong. Deploy teams, Ethan ordered. Now, Rangers moved with trained precision. They were men and women who knew this land like family, who had sworn to protect it from poachers, smugglers, and anyone who believed money placed them above the law. Helicopters roared to life, boots hit the ground, radios crackled with urgency. Deep in the forest, Lena drifted in and out of consciousness. Every sound felt distant, unreal. She tried to move but blackness swallowed her whole. When she woke again, it was night. Cold crept into her bones. She knew she couldn't survive until morning. With trembling fingers, she pressed the emergency SOS button on her damaged phone, not knowing if it would work. Then she closed her eyes, surrendering to the darkness. A faint beep cut through the forest. Ranger Maya Torres froze mid-step, holding up her fist. Her team went silent instantly. She knelt, pressing her headset closer. There it was again, a weak signal, but unmistakable. "We've got a survivor," she whispered. They found Lena hours later, barely alive. Maya's breath caught when she saw the injuries. This wasn't an accident. This was attempted murder. As medics stabilized Lena and rushed her toward evacuation, Captain Ethan arrived at the scene. His face hardened as he listened to the report. The disabled transponder. The fall. The injuries consistent with being pushed. "They threw her out," Maya said quietly. Ethan nodded once. "Then they just declared war. The bullies believed they were safe. They landed at a private airstrip, laughing, already planning stories to cover their tracks. They didn't notice the Ranger vehicles blocking the exits until it was too late. Floodlights ignited the darkness, engines growling like predators. Hands went up, faces drained of color. What happened next was not what anyone expected. Instead of immediate arrests, Captain Ethan stepped forward calmly. "Gentlemen," he said evenly, "you're under investigation for violations of protected airspace." One of the men smirked. "You know who my father is?" Ethan smiled, cold and sharp. "Yes. And he'll be very interested in what you did." The Rangers didn't stop there. They seized phones, cameras, and flight data. Every laugh, every cruel joke, every moment had been recorded, by the bullies themselves. Worse for them, Lena's phone, though damaged, had captured audio before she fell. When the footage was played in the outpost, silence filled the room. Lena's voice echoed, fearless even in terror. Then laughter. Then the sound of wind. Maya clenched her fists. They enjoyed it. They won't enjoy what comes next, Ethan replied. But the real surprise wasn't just the arrests. It was the choice the Rangers made afterward. Instead of quietly handing the case over, they went public. A press conference was called before dawn. Evidence was released. Names were named. Faces were shown. The story exploded across the world. Rich hooligans abusing protected land, attempting murder, laughing as they did it. Outrage followed like wildfire. Hospitals reported Lena's condition as critical but stable. Rangers guarded her room around the clock, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Maya sat beside her bed when Lena finally woke fully, tears sliding down her face. "You're safe," Maya whispered. "They can't hurt you anymore." Lena tried to speak, her voice raw. "They won't get away with it." Maya shook her head. "No, we promise." The trial was swift and brutal. Evidence left no room for doubt. The bullies, wealth couldn't buy silence this time. Their parents' influence crumbled under public fury. Charges piled up. Attempted murder, environmental crimes, obstruction of justice. One by one, guilty verdicts were read. But the Rangers weren't finished. In a move that stunned the nation, they launched a new initiative in Lena's name, a program to protect whistleblowers who expose crimes in protected lands. Funding poured in. Volunteers signed up. Laws were strengthened. What began as cruelty sparked reform. Months later, Lena returned to the forest. She walked with a limp, scars mapping her survival, but her eyes were steady. Captain Ethan and Maya stood beside her at the cliff where everything had changed. "I was afraid I'd never come back," Lena said softly. "You didn't just come back," Ethan replied. "You changed this place." She smiled, a mix of pain and pride. "You did." The forest was quiet, peaceful once more. The helicopter blades that once meant terror were replaced by birdsong and wind through the trees. Love for the land, revenge through justice, and a lesson the world would never forget. Some falls are meant to break the cruel, and some survivors rise strong enough to make them pay.